listening to the Smart Girl's Guide to BC Family Law. In today's episode, we are discussing
Family Law 101.
So don't go anywhere. Hi, this is the Smart Girl's Guide to BC Family Law, and we're here to help you understand and navigate the confusing aspects of divorce and litigation.
Going through a divorce can be emotionally draining, confusing, and incredibly expensive.
Trust us, we know.
But it doesn't have to be. Listen, we're not lawyers, but we do have personal experience as successful, self-represented litigants. And we want you to learn from our costly mistakes and give you the inside secrets we wish we had.
Look, our goal is to teach you the rules of this game, how the BC family law system works, and the steps you can take to reach a resolution as quickly as possible while spending as little money as possible.
Whether you decide to self-represent or hire a lawyer, this podcast is for you. Disclaimer, we're not lawyers and nothing herein is legal advice, but educational content and personal insight only.
All right, so you were married and unfortunately it didn't work out and you've decided you're going to go your separate ways and now you are facing a divorce. Of course, if there's any way that you can make it work, that should be your focus. And we hope that you've done everything you can to try and resolve and fix your relationship. But unfortunately, if the circumstances have led you to facing a divorce, we are here for you.
Totally. And, it sucks, right? Like, we can empathize with your situation. And just we want to remind everyone, divorce is not the place to litigate from a place of vengeance or to get back at your ex, to be malicious, to be filled with anger and rage. We understand those are all emotions you're going to experience, but don't litigate from that place. It's going to cost you way more. It's going to be way more time intensive. It's going to be more impactful on your kids if you have any. And overall, it's just going to take just more stress and energy, honestly. So, I know things might not be fair and it really sucks and we totally get it.
Yeah, but this is where having a support system, a good therapist, girlfriends, other people that care about you that will be able to help you to heal from this. The courtroom's not the place to get your frustration, hurt, resentment out. But the reality is that you're at an emotionally low state when you're in a divorce and in litigation. You're in a place of duress and you're probably riddled with uncertainties about all kinds of things. And so you're feeling stressed and you're anxious. And yet you've got to make these really important, often high pressure decisions that can have a massive financial impact on you, your life, your future, your kids. And so we're just trying to encourage you and to support you to do it with, a real focus and as little emotion as possible.
Yeah. So I guess bottom line is just don't start a litigation or respond to a litigation from an emotional place. I know it's really hard to do that, but you can do it. So breathe. It's going to be okay. Just take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and just slow things down. So with that, I think we should just kind of jump in and give our audience like a high level overview of Family Law 101. And one thing that you're going to hear a lot as you're going down this process is claimant and respondent. So let's start with that. What does that mean?
Well, if you are the claimant, you are the person who has made the claim and initiated the family litigation. You do that by filing a notice of family claim. And then the other party is the respondent, and they're the person that's going to be responding to the claim that you're making. Yeah. So, Sophia, what were you, claimant or respondent?
So I was the respondent, and you were as well, right?
I was respondent too, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then, so how about taking a 3,000-foot view, a high-level overview of the legislation? So there's legislation that governs divorce in Canada as well as provincially in BC. So there's the federal and the provincial aspect of it. And that's called the Divorce Act, which is federal, and the Family Law Act in BC. Can you just touch base on them briefly?
Yeah. And just really, in a short answer is the Divorce Act it's federal law and it applies to married couples that are wanting a divorce. It covers child custody, support for children and spousal support. It's basically what lets parties get a divorce after 1 year of separation or sooner if there's been adultery or cruelty. Whereas the provincial legislation in BC is the Family Law Act, and that covers family law matters, including property division, child custody, support with the children's best interests in mind. You'll hear that a lot. It also recognizes common law couples' rights, and it makes sure that agreements between parties can be enforced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's basically in BC, everything that you acquired during the marriage,
Mm-hmm.
all of your property, all of your assets, all of your bank accounts from the time that you were married until you were separated, or split 50-50. And that's sort of the starting point, and that includes both debts and assets. And then everything that you brought into the marriage, if you owned property or you had assets before you were married, those are excluded assets and are yours to keep.
Exactly. Now, of course, there are a lot of exceptions to this, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not always divided 50-50. Sometimes things might be divided 100%, 0%, or a combination in between that. And the court might make different decisions based on your circumstances.
Yeah.
So,
It really depends. In my case, I was seeking an unequal division of assets because I had a strong compensatory spousal support claim, but that's a whole other episode. Um,
mhm,
the important thing right now is claimant, respondent, know which one you are, and then the legislation. The federal legislation is the Divorce Act, the provincial legislation is the Family Law Act. You should really try and get to know both of those things.
exactly. So, where can you find more about the legislation as well as any exceptions to that 50-50 division of the law?
My go-to place is a resource that I want to give a shout out to called Canly. It's CANLII.org. This is an online resource. It's got provincial and federal reasons for judgment or decision. So when you go to court, whether it's to a hearing or to a trial, the judge has to make a decision, and those reasons are written up and called reasons for judgment. But Canly also has white papers, articles on every topic you can think of related to law, not just family law. It's a really, really great resource. And the best part about it is that it's free, it's easy to navigate. It's a great place to start.
Mm-hmm. And something that I wish I had known at the beginning of my whole legal process was about Canly, because one thing that's going to help you as well as your legal team, your full-time lawyer, your unbundled part-time lawyer, is understanding your case and what really happened in your situation. And how to
Mm-hmm.
do that is to look at previous case law in Canly, because you're essentially going to see other claimants and respondents, other cases where people had similar marriages as you, had similar situations as you, maybe similar assets, and how the court ruled things in their circumstances. And that's incredibly helpful because it'll allow you as well as your lawyer to better understand what is the type of case you're dealing with, kind of conceptualize that, and then also give you an idea of what kind of outcomes you could anticipate if your case were to go to trial. So relying on case law is going to be such a big component of your entire kind of legal process, whether you're making chambers applications for documents, whether you're actually preparing for trial and need to reference previous cases. But knowing this information and starting with it at the beginning, I think is super, super helpful. So I would encourage our listeners as homework tonight, if you haven't taken some time looking at Canly, to go and do that. And maybe, Farah, you can just kind of tell people how they can search some things up on Canly.
Yeah, it's really intuitive. So when you go to Canly, there's actually a spot where you can put in document text. So you can put in, married with children, um, long-term marriage. Um, those will bring up cases that have those keywords in it. And as you're looking through the cases, you want to try and find the fact pattern that's as similar as possible to yours. So if you're looking at a case that had a 30-year marriage, yours with a 3-year marriage, that's not going to be very relevant to your case. You've got to find cases that reflect and mirror your situation and the facts in your case as much as possible. So things to keep in mind, and some good keywords are like long or short marriage, were there children, no children, did you have a compensatory claim for spousal support? Are you looking at cases addressing property division? So it's just a matter of taking the time to really go and
Mhm.
do the searches in Canly, but then it pulls up all the cases and you then click on each case and read it. And the cases typically have a summary up at the top, which then tells you a little bit about what the case is. And if you see that it doesn't kind of match your situation, then just move on to the next one. But if there's some things that you think, okay, this is relevant, I see some similarities here, then read through the case, the reasons, and you'll get a sense for whether or not this is a case that is going to be helpful to you.
Exactly. And really for me, it was so helpful to understand how a judge thinks and how they make decisions, right? Because ultimately the decision maker in your litigation phase, depending on if you're going to chambers or if you're at trial, is going to be a master's or a judge. They're going to make some decisions, and you want to know, what do they want to hear and how do they want to hear it? How do they want the information presented to them? So reading through these previous case laws, I found really helpful to understand how a judge viewed a case, how they made the decision, and their take on the whole matter. So I can't encourage our listeners more than you guys should go check it out and really spend some time researching.
Yeah. And as you're going through the process, listen, no one's going to know your situation and your circumstances as well as you do. So at least at the outset, the research phase, this is a really good way for you to gather that information and then to also position with your lawyer what type of situation you have. I think that that's really, really important to say you are the expert in your matter and you may have really good legal counsel, but they're going to be learning as they go about your situation, what the issues were, what the facts were. You are the expert in this case, and looking at other cases, you're well positioned to figure out which cases are going to be relevant or not.
You got it. Anything else that we should kind of let our listeners know?
I think in summary, it's really important that you understand the legislation. You know that it's property and it's child support, spousal support, and parenting arrangements. Take the time to read both the acts, the Divorce Act and the Family Law Act. It may seem a bit kind of overwhelming, but you'll be able to piece out because it's divided into sections that focus on each of those things. And I think it's important to just familiarize yourself with the law and the rules as you start to sort of navigate through this process with your lawyer or on your own. So homework is definitely check out CanLII. Another great idea is to go down to the law library at the Supreme Court where you live. Really helpful people there, great resources. You can start to familiarize yourself with what other resources you have available to you at the law library.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thanks guys for tuning in, and we're looking forward to catching you on the next episode.
See you soon.
Head on over to smartgirlsguide.ca for free and paid resources to help you with your divorce. That's smartgirlsguide.ca.
Disclaimer. We are not lawyers and nothing herein is legal advice but educational content and personal insight only.
Catch you on the next episode of Smart Girl's Guide to BC Family Law. Bye!
Bye.